I brought you on because I want to have a conversation about something that you have been through, an experience that I think you could talk about the things you went through, your experiences, and we can hear your story and learn from it and see what you have to say.
Okie dokie.
So first thing is recently you went through an experience that put you out of Humboldt for a few years.
Yeah, I got arrested on May 18th, 2019 for drinking and driving and someone losing their life.
So that incident occurred, and then what happened like minutes or hours after that?
Well, so when it happened, it was in the morning. I blacked in and out, and I don't remember a lot. And I remember hitting something. I don't really remember a lot of those details, but I do remember it was like 45 minutes, and I called them and told them that I was the driver, and then they came and got me. I think we went to the hospital because he asked what I was under the influence of, and I told him, lying to a cop, I don't know, it just didn't seem like a smart idea. Lying usually never is. But I think we went to the hospital. It was like in and out, and then I remember they had me like kind of like sobering up, watching TV, and then they like fingerprinted me and took that mugshot. Oh my gosh. I had just been up all night. Mugshots aren't your finest hour. And so I got booked into the county jail, and I didn't actually get sentenced for like almost 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, 2 years.
In Humboldt County?
Yeah, I was fighting my case for 2 years.
That's so long.
My dad got me a private attorney. They wanted to give me 11 years at first. And then I eventually ended up getting sentenced to 9 years, and I did a third of that. I went down to Chowchilla, was there for like 2 months, and then got transferred to CIW, which is another prison. And then eventually I made my way to a program in San Diego, which is where I've been for the past year. I graduated the program, and I actually have been home for about 15 days.
15 days?
Yeah,
nice.
After about 3.5 years.
So let's go back to the Humboldt County. You just got into Humboldt County. You had spent 2 years there.
Yeah.
And what was that like being there? I mean, you've driven by that so many times in your life. Probably like the 101 just runs right by. So what was it like being in there?
It was weird. Jail definitely isn't something that I ever thought I would experience. But it was different, like going in, they give you 2 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of underwear, a bra or 2, but they're like, used.
Yeah.
Like used underwear. Like, so.
Brutal.
I do remember getting like dressed down and like made to put on this like jumpsuit, and it's like, you think like, oh, Halloween. You don't actually think like, oh, this is literally what I'm going to be wearing for the next 7 days until it's laundry day again.
And it's like a automotive type of jumpsuit, or it's like a onesie?
Yeah, it's like a mechanic jumpsuit. Like, yeah.
And what color?
Navy blue is for the girls, and orange is actually what the boys have to wear.
Okay. So in Humboldt County Jail, there's a section of it for women and section for boys, or is it
like dorms. No co-ed.
There's no co-ed.
We're not allowed to interact.
Not even talking or at all?
No. People send jail mail, though. There's a lot of jail mail.
Jail mail?
Jail mail. It means...
Is there a mailman for this, or...?
No. They give it to the officers, and then they literally call your name, like, Bianco, Sendejas.
So the guards will deliver it for you?
they stand by the cop shop, which is like their desk. It's
Yeah.
what they call it. And they name everybody's name, and you're all in your like little, what would you call it? Like a little cube, like a little section. And they call your name, you go and get your mail, and then you go back to your thing until mail's over. But yeah, that's how you get letters. You wait for your name at after shift change, which is I think 6 o'clock.
Okay.
You know.
And so, do people date in jail?
Oh,
like girls and girls, or
absolutely.
boys and boys, or like girls and boys, but like just through mail?
I think that people create relationships when you're talking to somebody. If you guys are both in there for a long time, it just passes the time. Even if
Okay.
it's super ridiculous, like, oh, I like you so much, you're so cute, you know, da 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 da. I mean, it passes the time, you know, and that's really like, I keep thinking of the movie Shawshank Redemption. It is literally so funny, but like, people will do almost anything to pass the time. You know, sometimes it's productive, sometimes it's not.
And so, food is something that's a big part of my life, but I can't help but think what the food is like in there. And can you paint some sort of picture that, you know, what the food's like?
Yeah, you know, there were, I think the first week of just like being in like shock and stuff, I didn't eat too much, but when I did eventually start eating it, there were things that smacked, don't get me wrong, I mean, that were good. But a lot of the times it's just things that they can make in bulk to feed literally 80 women, and then like whoever's in the guys' dorms. There's only one dorm for the women, and then the rest of the jail is guys.
There's only one dorm?
Yeah.
And is that open?
And it fits like 115 girls. And then there's, like a max unit, like, which is like the cells. And there's only like 7, 8. There's like a certain amount on the bottom, and then there's some on the top. But
And-
only 2 people per thing. That's not that many.
And so the whole jail isn't just cell. There's places where there's like
Open.
open room.
Yeah,
Like I
open.
see on TV sometimes where there'll be open room, like tables.
Yeah, that's the dorm.
That's the dorm.
Yeah.
And so you can sit at a table, you can walk into like a place where you sleep.
Yeah.
You can walk into a place to sleep,
Yeah.
walk into the table.
Not if it's not yours, though.
Oh,
If you don't live in that quad,
You can't even
you
walk
do not
into-
go into that quad, because that's where the
fights?
like in prison. Well, no, but like the boom boom room. It's like that's
The what?
Like it's like a prison thing, like the boom boom room. It's like
Boom? Is that
where people go to like hook
intimate?
up.
See, okay.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah, okay. The boom.
I'm an adult. I swear.
That sounds like a comical term
It's
for
funny
it.
because you mentioned that podcast, that prison,
The Pelican Bay Scholars Program.
Well, no, not that one, but yes.
Oh.
The podcast that's at San Quentin.
Oh, yes, yeah,
And that's where I learned about the Boom Boom Room.
Really?
I think so, on one of their little things. Yeah.
Okay, so you got dormitories, you have cells. Now, there are people in cells, and then there are people in the dormitory open space. Now, how do they like dictate who's in a cell and then who gets to be in open space?
Well, during COVID, it was a little different. You know, they had people going to quarantine for 2 weeks in the cell, and then they would put them back over. Now, usually the people who are in max get in trouble.
Okay.
So much in the dorm, like not
Oh, they
following
get so
rules,
much.
yelling, doing something that they're not supposed to do so much that they get rolled. There's also politicking and drama and drugs and so many things that you can get caught up with to get you over in 377 is what
And
it's
that's the
called.
max,
Yeah, and
377.
363 is the women's dorm.
Okay. And is there women max facility?
Just the cells and then the dorm. Like,
Okay.
so the cells are like max.
Oh, so
like,
okay.
that's what they call it, is max, like the maximum security
Max
side.
security, yeah.
Yeah, so if you get into a fight, if you are caught with drugs, like, or you get into an argument with an officer and you, you go next door.
Okay.
If they think that you're shot calling. You go next door, which is like bossing people around, like shot caller. I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah,
so,
where you're like calling the shots, like you do this, you do this.
Exactly, and
there are those in there.
Yeah, but the funny thing is not everything is what it seems, because I will tell you what, I have been rolled to max, because listen, it was like The Bachelorette. There were shows that I wanted to watch, okay? And
okay.
Listen,
okay.
I know it sounds so bad. There were shows that I particularly missed watching, not being on the outs. Listen, and I could tell you more. A lot of those girls, and not in a mean way, but like, they don't have shows. I have shows, okay?
Okay.
So they thought that I was being a little bit bossy. And because I was like, okay, you guys can have it, at 10 o'clock. And then, lockdown's at 11. And so it's like, so we only get to watch TV for an hour. I'm like, on Mondays, 8 to 10.
Let's watch The Bachelorette.
Right.
Yeah.
But the thing is that even if people did get into it, I was being bossy. And from their point of view, I was a little mini mob boss.
You were a shot caller.
Right.
For a second. Okay, for a little bit with the TV.
I mean, why was I being so bossy? Because I wanted to watch The Bachelorette.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's something that I missed. It's like one of the things that I could do that I did when I was out there.
For sure, yeah.
And I kind of probably, I don't know, was like a little gremlin with the TV.
You're like, no, we gotta watch this now. It's Monday. It's Monday. Okay, so then after going to Max once, was that enough where you didn't call shots, or did you go a couple?
Not for the same thing, but I think I got rolled a total of 3 times. And it just happens, and it kind of goes along with what we were talking about earlier. Like, I am so on edge about being like getting in trouble, because at any point in there, whether it's not what it looked like or like whatever, you can get in trouble. You are held up, like the standards, like you're supposed to meet them, and when you don't, it's like there are repercussions.
Yeah. And so what are things in like jail that people do to get like mindfulness? Like, is there yoga? Is there classes? Is there schooling? Or, the working? Like, what's the most, like, what can you do to like step aside and get quiet time and like meditate? Or does that not exist?
Well, it does and it doesn't. Like, you're allowed to have earplugs. There is a weight room that you can go to, kind of. It's like with a little basketball court, cement with like a little like workout bench.
Yeah.
And it's like right when you're driving by, it's like one of those ones that have like those big open windows.
Right? And I can look in there and see a basketball court.
Yeah.
Basketball hoop.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can go in there, but it is loud from the cars. Oh. You know what I mean? So it's not so quiet. They had just got like these tablets to where you could watch movies if you earn points. Like watching points to watch movies.
Yeah, you earn.
So like you can listen to the podcast from the San Quentin thing. You can do math. You can like read little stories. Take science tests, stuff like that.
Okay.
To like earn points to listen to the radio or watch a movie.
Okay, I remember. So I was writing you. We were writing letters when in there, and at one point you said you were reading a lot.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what book. Were you reading Harry Potter's, or what book were
they?
It was Harry Potter, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Harry Potter
memory.
A million times. And Harry Potter is a book, but are books that I will read over and over and over again. Yeah, all the time. Actually, I can say this now. I got a tattoo of a lightning bolt while I was in jail on my big toe.
Really?
And
are there like bootleg tattoo artists in there, or is this like a...
No, it was just, we were in the cell and we were bored, and I don't know, maybe it was just
That's so classic. You got
it definitely bled. Yeah. But it's like I did things that I wasn't supposed to do. We all do it. Of course, yeah. And it kind of brings me back to like drinking and driving. People do it, and you never think it'll happen to you until it does. Because here I am 3.5 years later. My son is 5. I'm 28. I, can't fit into half the stuff that I used to. I'm cleaning out the stuff for my apartment. It's just things like that, the little things, and you really just have to be careful whether or not you've been incarcerated or not. Me, I kind of had to learn my lesson the hard way, and sometimes, most of the time I have to learn my lesson the hard way. It's just weird to think about, because it's like sometimes I still feel 25, but then something will happen and I'll be like, ooh, I would have been a nut about that before. And now look at me being all regular, and just
all
chill. All regular
all
and
adult-like
shit. Yeah,
and stuff.
Exactly. So it's like, I don't know.
So in Humboldt County, you were there for an unknown. I remember writing you, and you were like, "Oh, I have a court date on this day, and then I'll, hear what happens after that." You almost didn't know what was going to happen after what court date, and So what is that like being in there, not even knowing where am I going to go? How long is this going to be?
Yeah. Well, you get almost I would almost get pumped up on my court dates. My lawyer would meet with me and it would be the day before, or 2 days before. He would come see me. He's so incredible.
Nice.
And he would come see me and I would get all pumped up. And it's not like he ever got my hopes up or anything, but I would always just get super pumped, and I would go to court and it would be a continuance, or we can't agree on something, and eventually I had 7 charges all together, and they ended up going down to just 2. But it was a lot of arguing back and forth, and we had different judges, and ultimately they gave me the lowest for each of the charges, and they didn't max me out, and I mean,
not knowing for that amount of time must be hard on your headspace while you're in there. I mean, were you going through panic attacks, anxiety,
and it was so hard because I had to learn coping skills to get through things, because I smoke weed and I would drink, and I got off work, I'm gonna fold some laundry, drink a glass of wine, you can't do that in there.
We'll wrap it up in just a second, and then we'll probably have an episode 2. After the Humboldt County, you went somewhere.
I went down to prison, super freaking hot, just sweating in those cells.
Yeah.
It was COVID, we were only allowed out an hour in the to shower and an hour to go outside to the yard or whatever. And it was like that for most of it. And then it was a few days before Halloween, and I went to the other prison. And sometimes for holidays, they'll keep you kind of locked in your little room, because people overdose, they fight, people are drinking, they make hooch. They want to go to other people's little housing units, which you're not supposed to, and so they just try to minimize that. So Thanksgiving and Halloween, I was locked in with my cellie, who was very interesting. And, we programmed, you either went to school or fire camp. I did that and lost 40 pounds because I was pushing 200, and I did the training for fire camp and ended up not going to fire camp, but going to a program in San Diego. And that's where I've been. And I eventually made it to a phase 3 and was able to work outside of the house at Wendy's, and it was good. Because it was a little nerve-wracking. And
I mean, you're back out in the world. You're working at Wendy's, from Humboldt County down to prison, and then all of a sudden, now there's the fresh air, and I'm working, and
so I came home, with some money. I have multiple certificates from the program.
Yeah.
And I've just grown a lot.
Definitely. And you're on parole now, but if parole goes good for X amount of days, then.
Yeah, so if I do well on it for a year, I can potentially graduate early which would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I don't think that anxiety of like, am I doing the right thing for me will ever go away.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that I used to think about